Oh, yeah. All right.
Went back down to the intersection and made my way towards Redfield. I knew I was the first person going up Redfield that day as well. I was hitting a couple spider webs. Got up in a pretty decent time, I believe 35 minutes, up to Redfield. Took in the views, took a picture of the sign, and went back down. Halfway down Redfield, I did my first water refill. I did have a 2.5 liter bladder with me and about 2 liters worth of storage. So I was very minimalistic today and very, very high risk management today. So there was a lot of stuff that I didn't have that you would probably normally bring on a big day, just to save the weight and just basically going in with expectations of that I'm going to pull this off pretty much. So I had all my calories, but I ran out of water, which my first bladder had a ton of tailwind in it. And so this was the first time I was basically getting a new fresh amount of water with just fresh water. And I do love the brook coming off of Redfield. It is some of the cleanest water I've ever had. It is so good. And so I basically scooped up and kept going.
Almost down from Redfield, and honestly, this is one of my favorite sources of water. Just restocked up, and man, it is cold and refreshing. Finished 2.5 liters of water and about to start my next 2.5 liters. Then we're going to be making our way over to Gray now, up to Lake Tier of the Clouds.
Cliff and Redfield were a success, and I can vouch for Jonathan when he says the river on Redfield is some of the best tasting, freshest water he's ever had. It is indeed a very tasty river. As Jonathan began making his way towards Feldspar Brook, he passed the first people of the day as he approached the Marcy Trail. But up next came 3 of the 10 tallest peaks in the park: Gray, Skylight, and the big one, Mount Marcy. And did I mention he's already roughly 15 miles and 6 high peaks in on the day, with 19 high peaks still to go?
Got to Feldspar and started just making the grueling ascent all the way up to Lake Tier of the Clouds. And I was on the summit of Redfield at 9:52 a.m. and then made my way to Gray Peak and got up there by 11:27 a.m., only 5 hours and 15 minutes or so after I started. Standing on Gray, looking out over to Lake Placid, I'm assessing myself, and I honestly feel like I haven't even started my day. I feel 100%. I feel very hydrated. The temperature was absolutely perfect. It was like 59 degrees, 60 degrees and sunny, and I had the perfect amount of calories. I just felt great, and I think a lot of that comes back down to mentality going into it. And if I went in thinking I was about to be done for the day, then I probably would feel different. But my knees felt great. I wasn't muddy. My feet were completely dry, and I had basically a full tank left in me. It felt.
Over 5 hours, 7 high peaks, and 17 miles into his day, Jonathan didn't even feel like his day had really started yet, and his body was firing on all cylinders. Jonathan made his way down Gray, feeling 100%, and even did some navigating for fellow hikers on his way down the mountain. And once he arrived back to the Marcy Trail, it was time to head up to the Four Corners intersection, where he'd hit the 0.5-mile trail up to Skylight, where he was met with one of the Adirondacks' most beloved summits, followed by finally taking his first real food break of the day before experiencing another first, that being his first time ever climbing up the backside of Mount Marcy.
Absolutely gorgeous weather, the classic Shire-like feel of the summit of Skylights, and went up, pretty much just came right back down, and that's where I took my first or a longer food break, because I was actually about to go up the backside of Marcy for the very first time. I've never done that ascent, and I was not looking forward to it. And I'll tell you, it sucked.
Making my way up the Schofield cobbles of Marcy, and I've gone down this way like over 20 times, and this is the first time I'm going up it, and it sucks. Oh my gosh. Okay. Almost up to Marcy though, high point for the day.
I definitely should have consumed a little bit more calories than I had by that time. And so when I started going up the backside of Marcy, I was going so slow. At least it felt slow, but I looked at my time and it almost seemed like I teleported, because I was standing on the summit of Skylight at 12:02 p.m. and was standing on the summit of Marcy at 12:37. So somehow I still did it in about 35 minutes from summit to summit, which I just don't know how that's possible because going from Marcy to Haystack took an hour and 35 minutes for some reason. But I got to Marcy. There was definitely a few people on there and just took a longer break because to me it was the high point. Now I'm about to go and do the whole entire Great Range. And I kind of just took a deep breath. I could actually start to feel slightly fatigued. I've even though my mileage might only be like 17 or 18 miles at that time, I have a lot of vert on me. I probably have close to 10 or 11,000 vert on my feet for the day. And so I'm definitely a little tired. I've exhausted a lot of calories. And so I took in a lot of food right there and pretty much just hammered down Marcy. I went so fast. Like I was running a 5K at race pace, and I made it, I think, all the way down to the Van Hovenberg intersection in like maybe 2.5 minutes or something like that. And I got there, and I just kept running down the range trail.
Up next, the Great Range Traverse. Now imagine being 18 miles into your day with over 10,000 feet of gain and 9 high peaks in, with 16 more to go before starting the Great Range Traverse. Wild. Jonathan is a machine, and he's on to the next phase of his day as he heads across the Great Range. It's on Haystack, however, after passing a High Peaks legend, that he'll experience his first bout of fatigue of the day.
Halfway up to Haystack, I came across Gary Koch. Gary was he was about to finish up his 87th round, the 46, and I've met him a couple other times. So we just talked shop for 5 minutes, told me a little bit about his day, told him about my day, and just had a nice little refreshing conversation going up the Haystack. As I got to the bottom of Little Haystack, I looked at my watch and I was just like, where on earth did the time go? I just do not feel like I spent that much time at all. But going down Little Haystack and then starting to go up Haystack, I started to really, really feel calorically deprived. A lot of the calories I chose for the day were good calories. They were dense and they were healthy calories. The problem was I was starting to have an imbalance of sugars and sodium. And so it's kind of like that one thing. It's like you just crave salty stuff. And I did not have an appetite at all. And it was awful. Because you just don't realize how slow you move when you don't have the right calories in you, because you feel like you're getting to the end of what you're capable of. But if you eat the right amount of calories per hour, it really does take you so far. It has to be the right amount of calories. Before I even started the whole entire day, I wasn't even feeling like I had that much of an appetite. I had to force myself to eat when I woke up, which generally happens. I don't have an appetite to eat at 3 a.m. I generally eat oatmeal before I start a day like today because it stays like a lead weight in your stomach and it processes more slowly. The only downside to it is being fiber. And so I had a bagel and some oatmeal before I started my day, which pretty much got me all the way to Lake Colden. So I think at this point, I probably have consumed just about 1,000 calories. But I'm probably at close to like 12 or 13,000 vertical gain now for the day. And I got to the summit of Haystack, and there's one side of Haystack looking out towards the Great Range and the Dix Range where there's no wind at all every single time I go up there. And so I just sat down right there in my little favorite spot, and I just looked out and I took a deep breath. I looked at my legs, and that's when I started to just be like, wow, I am tired.
Sitting here on the summit of Haystack, high peak number 10 for the day, looking out to the Great Range, Colvin Blake Nippletop Dial, and the Dix Range, knowing I have 14 peaks left. I am very tired. However, I think a lot of it is coming from my calories. Even though I have a good amount of calories, I just have no appetite, and it's really hard to eat. So I don't know exactly how this is going to go, but I know I just moved way too slow, and I just got to keep going, and hopefully I'll get a second wind.
It was here on Haystack where Jonathan finally felt some fatigue, and at this point he was 10 high peaks in with 15 more to go as he sat there at 1:40 p.m., 9.5 hours into his hike, staring at where he's been and where he still has to go.
I'm counting. I'm like, okay, well, I'm 10 high peaks in, still have 15 to go. And I'm looking out, and I look down the whole Great Range, and I look out to the right, and I see Colvin Blake Nippletop Dial and the whole Dix Range, man. And it looks like it's on the other side of the planet. And I'm like, I cannot believe that I am about to walk to that. And I'm even looking all the way down at Lower Wolfjaw. And even Basin, you just look at it and you're just like, how do your feet do this? I just don't understand it. No matter what, I'll never get over how far you can walk in a day. And I just sat there and I'm like, okay, I'm just reminding myself why I'm doing this, reminding myself that there's also a lot of people watching, and I've had my failure moments before in the past and they don't feel good. And I'm just trying to remind myself, like, at least for me personally, this is a personal redemption moment. And I'm just like, okay, you're gonna stand up and you're just gonna keep going. You're hungry. The amount of calories that I have left, I think I still have around 1,000 calories left to get down to the Great Range, which I definitely am not. I'm kind of calorically depriving myself a little bit, which is not good. And so going down Haystack, that's when I did my second water refill. One of my favorite places to refill water is right there at the Snowbird, near the Snowbird campsite. And so I pretty much scooped up the water. It's pretty fresh right there, and started making my way up Basin.
Jonathan gave himself a pep talk and continued moving along the Great Range, and it was on his way up to Basin where he realized that he needed more food and he needed different food. And fortunately for him, he would get exactly what he wished for.
As I was going up Basin, I don't know why, but the thought crossed my mind, I really hope there are some people up there that know who I am, so I would feel comfortable asking if they had extra calories. Now, I never ask anything for people on the trail, ever, even if I desperately need it. Obviously, that's a pride issue, but the other thing is, at the end of the day, I don't want to inconvenience someone else because I inconvenienced myself. I've been there, and it's really embarrassing. Normally, I'm good at not having to do that anyways, but in a day like today, if there was that chance, knowing I could get a different kind of calorie in, tasting different, I would totally take them up on that. And again, I have food myself. It's just I have no appetite at all, and it's hard to eat what I have. It just for some reason wasn't going down well at all. I got to Basin at 2:58, so an hour and 20 minutes later, and basically it took me 3 hours just about to go. Yeah, 3 hours to go from Marcy to Haystack to Basin. And if you ask me, that's slow. Like, it is. Like, that is like you're going out to just enjoy the Great Range for the day and you don't care and you're not feeling time pressured at all. And that's just because I was moving so slow in the uphills because my muscles had no energy. I was very well hydrated today. Like, I wasn't sweating. I wasn't peeing, but that's actually not a good thing, and I'll explain why later. So as I was going to Basin, for some reason that thought did cross my mind about hoping to come across those people, and lo and behold, I get to the top. These people, their eyes wide, and they're like, Jonathan Zaharek, and I'm like, hey, how's it going? And we get in a conversation, and after I realized they know what I like, they know my work pretty well. I straight up asked them, do you guys have any extra calories I could have? And they were like, oh my gosh, we have so much food. It was like the perfect situation. They were like full backpacking the whole, like just Haystack and Basin. And they had tons of extra calories, and they had 2 gallon Ziploc bags full of food. They said, pick whatever you want. And so I had a fest, and I just sat up there, I think for 10 minutes, just eating and talking and kind of just getting myself, resetting my headspace. Because I knew once I left the Basin, I was probably going to be by myself now all the way until I got down to the AMR to restock. So I got my food, I fueled myself up, I felt really great, standing on Basin at 3 p.m. and started making my way over to Saddleback. Got to the bottom of the cliffs, didn't even think about them, just went straight up them, stood on Saddleback only 30 minutes later, and then made my way down, and then I remember looking up at the Gothix cables.
Trail angels to the rescue for the young Adirondack celebrity known as Jonathan Zaharek. He was now refueled, feeling good again, and finished with the upper Great Range. Now it's time for the lower Great Range, but not before climbing the very steep stretch of trail up the cable route to Gothix, of course.
I'm probably close to 14 or 15,000 in now at this point, and I'm like, Gothix cables is like the second steepest port. It's so steep. And I was like, all right, just like every other mountain today, I'm going to just put my head down, I'm going to put some music on, and I'm just going to go uphill and not even think about it. And didn't even realize it, and before I even knew it, another 30 minutes later, I was standing on the summit of Gothix, 4:13 p.m.
Sometimes the best way up the mountains is to just put your head down, don't think about it, and just send it one foot in front of the other. Good lesson in life, too. But he stood on Gothix exactly 12 hours into his day, which was high peak number 13 of 25, which matches the most mountains Jonathan's ever climbed in one single day, and also puts him over the halfway hump. And now, the lower Great Range fun would begin. On to Armstrong and the Wolf Jaws.